Good evening and welcome to the program Below the People and Governance here on Spectrum Television. It's a beautiful Tuesday evening, and of course this is a program that bridges the gap between the government and the people. My name is Rachel David White. Well, today on the program we'll be looking at some of the issues which we left unattended to yesterday, and of course other new trending issues. We'll take a look at 7 different issues trending today in Nigeria. Of course, that is just a few away from what is today. Well, the first is that which we briefly looked at yesterday, but today we'll be discussing extensively, and that has to do with the disclosure, or would I say the allegations that the former Chief of Army Staff, General Tukur Buratai, retired, actually said. He accused the political class of creating insecurity in Nigeria. Buratai met the allegation while sharing his experience in a lecture he delivered titled Public Service and the Imperatives for National Security in Nigeria in the second stanza 2023 National Public Service Lecture and the 65th anniversary of the University of Ibadan Alumni Association. While the former army chief criticized those who called for his sack over the insecurity in the country while he was in office, he said such calls stemmed from personal bias rather than an objective evaluation of his performance when he was in office. And he also advised politicians, public servants, even civil servants to leave above board by eschewing corruption, which he said had plagued the country's political sphere for decades, eroding public trust and hindering development. And according to him, misappropriation of public funds, bribery and embezzlement have become too common, while delivering resources away from essential services and leaving citizens delusioned. He also advised politicians to be accountable and transparent. Of course, we'll take a look at that. Of course, how the political class in some way or the other have actually caused insecurity in Nigeria. Away from that, former Senator and Chieftain of the All Progressives Congress, Alex Kadiri, which we also looked at yesterday, declared that it would be a tragedy if his party wins the forthcoming November 11th governorship election in Kogi State. While the former lawmaker submitted that the APC has not done anything credible in the past years that Governor Yahaya Bello had been in charge, hence having another APC governor in charge of a state would be a misnomer. And according to him, his party has brought nothing but pain, killings, and of course bloodshed to the people of Kogi State, which have reduced the quality of the life of citizens, he said. While Kadiri spoke with journalists in Abuja on Saturday and argued that he has always voiced out his position to the national leadership of the party, but his opinions have been ignored. While the former lawmaker also lamented the criminals, he says criminals are the ones winning elections in Nigeria because they have the funds and are treating Nigerians like conquered people. He served between 1999 and 2003, and also he commended Uduaghan, Senator Natasha Uduaghan Apotu, who was recently affirmed as the Kogi Central Senator for her doggedness and tenacity. Moving away from that, we also had reports that Inspector General of Police IGP Kayode Betakun had deployed a total of 220 operational vehicles and armored personnel carriers to the 3 states that are awaiting the off-season election. That's Imo, Bayelsa, and Kogi State, ahead of the November 11th Guba polls. While the police, in a statement on Sunday, disclosed that it deployed water cannons, helmets, bulletproof vests, and of course tear gas canisters, among others, to the states. The IGP urged all stakeholders in the 3 states to embrace peace, uphold sanctity of the rule of law, and of course be law-abiding in their endeavors before, during, and after the elections, as the police and other security agencies have been placed on alert to avert any unruly act capable of disrupting the elections in any of the states. While the police also noted that in a bid to achieve a smooth electioneering process, the IGP had organized training for police officers involved in election security management, and also added that it also sought the approval of the federal government for the payment of their allowances and other necessary support to boost the morals of the officers during the operations. Also trending, of course, the Labour Party presidential candidate in the 2023 election, Peter Obi, yesterday hinted at the 2027 presidency, saying the obedient movement represents a revolution postponed. And, of course, he said the struggle for a new Nigeria has only just begun. According to reports, he made the statement while addressing a press conference yesterday, weeks after the Supreme Court affirmed President Bola Tinubu's victory. And he vowed to remain steadfast in his commitment to manifesto presented by the Labour Party during the 2023 presidential campaign. He said the party will firmly be in the opposition, holding the government accountable and, of course, championing the hopes of the Nigerian people. Then moving away from that, President Bola Tinubu has, of course, set to deliver the 2024 appropriation bill during a joint session. Of course, when we come back, we'll listen briefly to the statement of the Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi, which is already on screen. Well, reliable sources within the presidency verify the information. Of course, they indicated that the president plans to present documents to lawmakers during the week commencing November 20th, 2023, to uphold the budget implementation cycle from January to December, among other objectives. Another source who confirmed this said the 2024 appropriation, the largest so far, reflects the administration's ambitions to finance the budget through a mix of savings from petroleum subsidy, which was scrapped in late May. Well, President Tinubu, who would leave for Saudi Arabia this Thursday, will be in Germany later this month for the Compact event. The Federal Executive Council had on October 16 projected 26.01 trillion naira as expenses, of course, for the 2024 fiscal year. This is also as it approved the medium-term expenditure framework for 2024 to 26. And the federal government affirmed that the administration would maintain the January to December budget implementation cycle, saying that the president would soon present the 2024 appropriation bill to the National Assembly to actually ensure its ratification before December 31st, 2023. And of course, still trending today, yesterday, protests erupted in Umuahia, the Abia state capital, as members of the Labour Party marched through major streets to register their dissatisfaction over the sack of the Senate Minority Whip and Senator representing Abia Central, Senator Darlington Mokocha of the Labour Party, while it was reported that the Court of Appeals sitting in Lagos on Saturday sacked Senator Mokocha and declared the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, called Austin Akombundu, of course, the winner of the February 25th senatorial poll in Abia Central District. Well, the protesters, led by Deputy Speaker of Abia State House of Assembly, Right Honorable Austin Maringini, vehemently rejected the judgment and called for its review. They also demanded a thorough investigation of members of a panel that handed down the judgment. The protesters, who chanted songs in solidarity with the ousted senator and LP, of course, carried placards with various inscriptions such as judicial impunity must stop. We voted for Darlington Mokocha and not Austin Akombundu. Darlington's mandate must be covered, among others. Of course, say judiciary, please correct your error by restoring Senator, of course, Darlington. While the protesters, who were adorned in black attire, described the judgment as pervasive and strange, addressing the mammoth crowd of protesters and Labour Party supporters as well. The Labour Party chairman in the state, Mr. C.K. Igara, described the judgment as a rape of democracy and a robbery of the people's mandate. He said that the judiciary should not be allowed to change the decision of a people on the grounds of frivolous technicalities. Well, Igara also said that the people of the constituency were not happy and had complained bitterly and wondered why the panel of the appeal that sacked Mokocha also upheld the election of the member representing Ishala, Ngwa, North and South federal constituency as well, Chief Ginger Mosibe, well, who of course had a similar case with him. Igara said that the party would not allow the mandate of Abia's central constituents to be the back door, and of course called on lovers of democracy to help protect Nigeria's democracy against the siege by political desperados. Igara appealed to President Bola Tinubu not to allow greedy politicians to destroy Nigeria's democracy for personal aggrandizement. And of course, finally, Governor Alex Oti of Abia State has appointed mayors for the 17 council areas in the state. Well, the commissioners for local government and chieftaincy affairs, Prince Uzo Nwachukwu, made the announcement in a statement today, just some hours ago. While the nominees include Ishalangwa South Local Government Area Chairman Dr. Elenenta Mwabusi Elele, of course, Deputy Mr. Eberechuku Ahuranye, of Ukwa West Local Government is represented by Chairman Mr. Newman Azu, Deputy Mr. Anele Michael. Of course, Zaro Chuku has Chairman Chief Joe Ezero and its Deputy Mr. Okezia Zuma. Umahia South has Chairman Mr. Obike Ejike Nochiri and of course Deputy Mr. Oledingwa Mwabweze. Ishalangwa North has as Chairman Mr. C.Y. Nwankwo and Deputy Mr. Uchenna Nwaboko. Umonechi Local Government Area Chairman has Mr. Ndubisi Ike rather, and of course Deputy is Mr. Njoku Augustine C. While Ishokwatu Local Government Area has as Chairman Air Vice Marshal Chiwendu Onyeke retired, and of course Deputy Honorable Harrison Onuke. Ikono has as Chairman Mr. Osinachi Hyacinth Waka, as Deputy Chief Charles Obwaja. Bande has as Chairman Barrister Chijoke Nwankwo, Deputy Mr. Onyedikachi Iregbu. Ohafia Local Government has as Chairman Chief David Ogba and Deputy Honorable Mpaoju Uka. Obingwa Local Government has as Chairman Dr. Eric Egwibe, Deputy Mr. Chimela. And of course, Ugwangwo has as Chairman Comrade Nosoke and of course Deputy Mr. Namdi Kelvin Chijoke, while Ukwa West has as Chairman Dr. Mrs. Ngozi, as Deputy Chief Na. Umuahia North has as Chairman Chief Victor Ikeji and as Deputy Okechuku Anthony Ama, while Abba South has as Chairman Mr. Okechuku AC, as Deputy Mrs. Nkiru. Abba North has as Chairman Ide John and of course as Deputy Prince Owona. Well, Osisioma has as Chairman Engineer Israel and as Deputy Barrister Young, and of course a whole lot number of other persons have been also made as mayors. And according to the statement, the list of the above mentioned persons has been, of course, the list has been so far transmitted to the State House of Assembly by the Governor, Dr. Alex Oti, Executive Governor Abia State, for screening and confirmation as required by the law. Well, the concerned persons are therefore requested to approach the State House of Assembly for their screening. Well, I must say that it's a good move by the Governor Alex Oti. Of course, this means is another greater step, of course, to also help the governor in taking care of the needs of the people, because he needs of course, hands and eyes everywhere, ears, where he can actually touch the lives of the local people. Well, these are the reports we'll be looking today. Majorly, we'll be looking at the allegation or accusation of the former army chief Tuko Borutai, who had said that the political class are solely responsible for insecurity in Nigeria. What do you think about this? If yes, in what way? That's what we are going to discuss majorly today, and of course, issues as well. Stay tuned. We'll go on a shop. The show can.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the Constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the matters counsel is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Every day marks a day of significance.
That in view of the apology tendered by this former minister who had earlier been cleared by this August Assembly,
as we face critical issues, developments and events which shape our social and political landscape here in Nigeria and beyond. Political Spectrum is a program specially designed to help make sense of all the moving parts of developments and occurrences in our nation's polity and political economy.
There is nothing wrong with Nigeria, but there's everything wrong.
The educational history of public figures holds significance beyond mere biographical details.
From executive, legislative, and judicial developments at national and subnational levels to international diplomacy and relations.
Join us for exclusive interviews with key political figures, expert opinions, analysts, thought-provoking conversations for and against, shedding light on the major issues that matter. We will always keep you updated on the most factual, smartest, and unbiased reportage.
Stay tuned to Political Spectrum. Political Spectrum. All sides matter at the round table. Political Spectrum. Exclusive to Spectrum Television.
One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story.
Nigerian police force, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the Constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the matters counsel is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Every day marks a day of significance.
That in view of the apology tendered by this former minister who had earlier been cleared by this August Assembly,
as we face critical issues, developments and events which shape our social and political landscape here in Nigeria and beyond. Political Spectrum is a program specially designed to help make sense of all the moving parts of developments and occurrences in our nation's polity and political economy.
There is nothing wrong with Nigeria, but there's everything wrong.
The educational history of public figures holds significance beyond mere biographical details.
From executive, legislative and judicial developments at national and subnational levels to international diplomacy and relations.
Join us for exclusive interviews with key political figures, expert opinions, analysts, thought-provoking conversations for and against, shedding light on the major issues that matter. We will always keep you updated on the most factual, smartest and unbiased reportage.
Stay tuned to Political Spectrum. Political Spectrum. All sides matter at the round table. Political Spectrum. Exclusive to Spectrum Television.
One truth.
Welcome back. It's still the program, The Law, the People and Governance. Well, we went on a long break and we are right back. The show continues. Well, don't forget, before we went on the break, we said we were going to talk about the allegations made by the former Army Chief Burutai Takor, retired, who said that the political class are responsible for insecurity in Nigeria. Well, we'd like to ask more questions about this. Well, we may not be talking to him in person, but we'll be talking to a socio-political analyst who will analyze his statement and give us some truthful facts and, of course, some doubts pertaining to that statement. So to discuss this with us this evening, we have already on standby via audio call Paulinus Peter, a socio-political analyst. Welcome on the show.
Thank you very much, and a beautiful evening to Spectrum TV.
Okay, thank you too. Without wasting much time, the former Army Chief, of course, Tuko Burutai, retired, had made a statement sometime last week accusing the political class of being responsible for insecurity. Do you agree to this statement?
As indicting as that statement might sound, I am of the view that there's nothing far from the truth. And that's because if you look at the personality making the statement, this has been somebody that has risen to the top echelon or the peak of his career as far as security is concerned. And at that level of expertise and attainment, is being interfacing with the political class, with the political leadership of the country. So for him to make such a statement, for me, is talking from the point of knowledge. Is talking from, from the top of what he knows. And for me, there is nothing far from the truth. Most of the happenings, most of the ills happening in Nigeria are politically orchestrated. And not just security. If you look at issues like unemployment, if you look at issues that, most of the things happening in this country are man-made. They are not things that, that are meant to be, or things that are of nature. They call it out of nature or of God, no. But they are man-made. And that's because you look at the situation of insecurity in Nigeria, the level of crime. You agree with me that some of these crime, banditry, be it kidnapping, be it whatever you call it, be it militancy, they are not crimes for common people. They are not crimes for people without heavy pockets, if you like, can commit. So for such magnitude of crime to thrive in a society on a sustainable basis, then you should agree with that statement that is politically motivated, that is politically orchestrated, that he enjoys the backing and patronage of the political class. So for me, I totally agree with such statement. Though it sounds indicting, it sounds very heavy, but looking at it critically and from pragmatic point of view, you should actually come to the fact that it's saying nothing but the truth. Otherwise, how do you explain banditry? What is banditry? How do you explain that? And these are people, over time, they have been, interfacing with government, stating their terms and conditions or collecting ransoms. So there are known faces. I don't know if you understand my point. So there are known faces. Why can't government go after them? So it's a point of the fact that these guys enjoy some level of coverage. There's something that government or the political class know that an ordinary person in the street does not know. And for somebody of the caliber of the former chief of staff of the country to make such statement, then is a statement of knowledge, is a statement of fact, and it's quite unfortunate.
Okay, so I'm listening to you, of course. As indicting as that statement sounds, I mean, he never fingered any particular person, though he said the political class, and that has to do with a whole lot. But is it possible that the political class could be responsible? Yes, to some extent you've answered the question, and you are of the opinion that yes, it is true that the political class are responsible for insecurity, maybe not solely, but partially responsible for insecurity in Nigeria. But what are those things that they are doing that you feel sponsors insecurity in Nigeria?
Well, you mean those things that the political class are doing?
Of course.
That should engender or promote insecurity. First and foremost is a common knowledge. I think there's this statement that was credited to our late head of state, General Sani Abacha, that when insecurity, when crime, exists and persists for over 3 days in any society, then the government must have had hand in it. So now you are asking the things that government or the political class are actually doing that promote or fuel insecurity in our climate. It's not far-fetched. One of it is failure, to be responsible. I don't know if you understand. The primary responsibility of government is to protect lives. Is to protect lives and property and to ensure law and order. So if you have the political class or a political leadership that fails to do that for whatever reasons, then that action or inaction of the political class or political leadership is directly or indirectly fueling and engendering insecurity in the land. In other words, when a government that should act, intentionally fails to act, is simply, on the other hand, saying that it supports what is happening or is trying to normalize what is happening. So you cannot actually take away the blame, the box from the table of government. It is their sole responsibility. So failing to act is one way we can say that they are actually promoting it. And if you look at it from this illustration, say as you are now, certain things happen, and you pick up your phone to call the law enforcement agency to come, and they fail to turn up. How will you describe such a situation? I don't know if you have ever had such an encounter. I don't know if you have ever had such an experience, but it's something that is happening in Nigeria on a daily basis. And we also have situations where people that have been caught in the act of insecurity, people that have been arrested, have been released without question given. People, the government that should actually, deal with the perpetrators of crime are actually sitting down to negotiate with in quote, criminals, to negotiate with them, coming to terms with them, payment of ransom. There are times we heard, in the last administration, where the Boko Haram guys will give government some conditions that if you want certain set of people to be released, then you should release some of our members that have been held in your cell. And very unfortunately, we had a government that subscribed to that. What are you saying? You are simply encouraging that act of illegality. You are simply encouraging the criminality. You are simply, turning it to an industry that, in other words, will encourage others to see it as a thriving industry. I don't know if you can see it from that perspective. We can go on and on. So this and many more are the ways that makes us to feel that of a truth. Because our government is failing to do what they should do, they are failing to act when they should act, they are failing to be responsive and responsible, then they are directly and indirectly, engendering and promoting crimes and criminality in the land.
Okay, of course, I must give it to you, trying to pinpoint unemployment and other issues that may be responsible for insecurity. And of course, those are the duty posts of these political office holders. They are supposed to man that post in such a way that they do not allow any leakage. But in some cases, we see them failing every time. And of course, the cost of governance has become a major issue that we talk about almost every day. But let's quickly move away from that right now. And of course, also try to
it's
check
okay,
on.
but for me, I may see those factors you mentioned as secondary factors. But we are talking about the primary factors of government failing to act when they should act, failing to take actions when they should take actions, failing to be responsible when they should be responsible. We have government that is not responsive, unresponsible. These are immediate and primary causes of this criminality and insecurity we are having. But things like unemployment, nepotism, and what have you are what we may consider as secondary causes and what have you. So they are still part of it all.
Okay. All right, so let's quickly move away from that right now and talk about the off-cycle election, which is just around the corner. I mean, November 11th is very close, and we should be looking at some of the concerns that we are having. Of course, the IGP had said he has deployed over 220 plus personnel, water cannons, tear gas, and all of that, of course, to man those states, those 3 states that elections will be going on the 11th of November. Inside that, well, Alex Kadiri, of course, a former lawmaker, has expressed his fear over Kogi election. And of course, away from that, he had talked about he had talked about having his party win again in Kogi State. I mean, he says if his party wins again, it spells doom for the people of Kogi State. But generally, what are your concerns? What are those things that you are alert about, or that concern you are worried about? You're worried over the forthcoming polls?
Well, my immediate concerns and worries over the development as related to the elections that are coming up in the state is the fact that government, in our country is still having, to deploy a whole lot of securities for elections. This, for me, portray a war situation. This, for me, is an indicator that there will be intimidation somewhere, because we have law enforcement that most cases are not professional in their conduct. We have law enforcement, that are neutral, that are not neutral, law enforcement that are not objective. So for government to be deploying these large numbers of security personnel for an election, for me, is a kind of trying to intimidate the opponent. If you equate that with the statement, that you've just made, crediting it to the governor of Kogi State that his party will still return. And it is the party at the center that is in charge of deployment of these securities. Then it gives much worry about our electoral processes. It goes to show that we are still yet to get it right. We have not come to the level, where there is that high level of freedom, or that level of liberty with the citizenry. The citizens are not, given that ground to actually elect the leaders they want. For God's sake, what are you doing with such numbers of policemen? What are you doing with such weaponry? They are intimidating naturally. The locals, a mere sighting of, such number of policemen will be intimidated. They will feel like, look, what is happening? And typical of what is happening in the country, from the experience, the party in power, actually, the government in power, actually tend to use this law enforcement to their advantage, contrary to the popular, yearnings of the people. So for me, it's not a welcome development, no matter how we might tend to look at it. It's not a welcome development because of the role that the law enforcement.
Okay, let me just pause you and ask you something, so you could just merge it together. You says the government of the day tends to use, of course, the number of troops or whatever to the advantage. What do you mean by that?
Well, for me, I like being objective. I like being pragmatic in my utterances, and that's because to some extent I must have had, a field experience. The question is, who is doing the deployment? By the operations of the Nigerian government, or by the nature of our democracy, the governor is still the chief executive officer of the state. The governor of a state is still doing much of the funding, whether in logistics, like giving of vehicle and what have you, to the law enforcement. And if you take the saying that he that pays the piper dictates the tune into consideration, which is very much applicable and true, yeah, then you should agree that for the fact that it is actually the government that is in power, that is doing the funding, that is giving the instructions, that is giving some other form of support, then naturally the law enforcement, are actually tend to yield or to be sympathetic to their causes. And that is why it's always difficult for an opposition party to win election in Nigeria. That's because every government in power, every party in power has been using the law enforcement agencies, has been using security, to their advantage as against the level playing ground that we should have in our electoral process. These are practical things. These are practical things that we must not shy away from it. These are reality that we must tell ourselves. These are the truths that we must tell ourselves. I don't know if you understand my point. So that is where my fears are. That is where my concern is.
Okay.
And until we are able to have a situation where security agencies will play minimal role in our electoral processes and practices, then having free and fair election will continue to be a mirage and a wild dream.
Okay, now, you've talked about that, of course, power of incumbency come into play. Where the incumbent governor needs to still sponsor, needs to still release lots of things. But if you get to Imo State, of course, there have been so many concerns there, insecurity issues, and of course, allegations leveled against the commissioner of police there in Imo State that led to his redeployment to another part. Don't you think that makes it fair? That makes it look, or that means that the police and of course the federal government is playing a neutral, it's playing on a neutral ground on this issue. They are after the common good of the people, or the good of the common people.
Okay, that is very far from it. The problems of Nigeria are structural. They are fundamental. But the problem with Nigerian citizens, they look at things from symptoms. They try to focus more on the symptoms of problems and not the root cause of problems. The problem of security involvement in Nigeria is beyond an individual. The IGP has just removed a person, a commissioner of police. What happened to the structure that has actually put the security architecture of a state in the hands of the governor? What happens to it? So it does not matter who is there, for the fact that there is that structural defect, for the fact that there is that fundamental problem in the organizations or structures of policing or security in Nigeria, means no matter who is there as a commissioner of police, the governor of the state, if it is at the state level, the president of the country, if it is at the national level, will continue to be in charge, will continue to have a considerable level of influence of the actions or inactions of our security architecture. That is the problem. That is the root cause of the problem. So if we are to address this problem, is to look at it and deal with it structurally. Look at the organizations, the formations and the operations, the organ of policing or security architecture in Nigeria. It has nothing to do with removing the commissioner of police. Okay, now that the commissioner of police has been removed, the new one that will be deployed or has been deployed has to be reporting to the governor. I don't know if you understand my point. Has to be reporting to the governor vis-a-vis the security concerns or happenings of the state, because the governor is a chief security officer. And this is an election that the governor is an interested party. Are you telling me that the governor will work against itself? Don't forget, before the election proper, there must have been security meetings. That's what they call security meetings, where a commissioner of police is a member. where the governor heads, if it is at the state level. So at that level, there is always a high level of compromise. There's always some level of understanding that leads to the compromise of the entire process. I don't know if you understand my point, but I am telling you from a practical point of view, from somebody that must have had the field experience.
Okay.
So that's how it works.
Okay. At this point, I know there are certain things you've said I would love to argue with you, but I'm just looking at my time, and then it's obvious that that's not going to be possible. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Peter Apollinus. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It has always been my pleasure to be there with you, Spectrum TV, and keep up your good work. You are actually educating and sensitizing the citizens on the way forward and what, and how it should be done. And for me, it's always kudos from me to Spectrum TV.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Thank you. Back to the people. Don't forget to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, SpectrumTVLive.ng. This is where we close the curtains for today. Catch you again tomorrow. I am Rachel David White. Good evening.